I say bugs going around, you know. Anyway, welcome everybody to Brainfood Live on Air, bringing it to you every Friday, no fail. We've been planning this session for a long time now, and I'm super excited to bring this topic to you. Not only the topic, but also the data behind the topic. It's going to be very exciting. If you are a sourcer or a recruiter at the coalface, your business is still finding and engaging candidates, this is a show for you. We're going to be reviewing Talent Trends Report, which is a series that Ashby produced, I think, once every quarter. They're really quite cool data pieces taken from their own proprietary system. And then that gives us sort of some idea as to who is doing what and why. Like, what is the difference between an effective recruiter and an ineffective one? Does it matter what day of the week you send your message? How many messages is optimal? Really interesting data. We're going to go through it line by line, and we're going to bring Willem on board for that. So that is the topic of today's show. But we also need to review the newsletter, of course. So let's go ahead and do that real quick before we bring Willem on.
Great. Okay.
Oh, you're not ready. Don't worry. I tell you what, man.
I'm ready. Absolutely. Yes.
No. I actually want to make sure that we are actually live in different places, because I think LinkedIn Live has returned. So if you're watching this on LinkedIn, do let us know, because it was like devastating to know it wasn't actually on last time. I think it's still off, you know. So it may just be that the show is only available on Crowdcast. No, we are on LinkedIn, which is great. So that's fantastic. Even though I just see blank screens, and we're on Crowdcast here as well. All right, let's keep going. Sorry, Adam, I interrupted you.
That's all right. Fine. Okay, let's talk about Michael Blakely's second in the series of hiring a software developer behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Like, doing this in public is a really cool thing to do. I like it. I think it shows a lot of authenticity. And so in terms of a summary of what he did and what he learned from this process, the first was, I think he said that he feels like he really got an influx of applications because of candidates being able to use generative AI. And I think he said that quite a lot of the answers, responses, kind of looked very similar, and that was pretty suspicious.
Yeah.
There was one specific case where I think he could identify candidate fraud, because there was real discrepancies in candidates' location that raised some red flags and led to further investigation. He talked about the concept of direct sourcing is still important. It doesn't matter how many applications you get. And he felt like it was a really great thing to do to identify people and reach out to them, regardless of the fact that lots of people still actually applied. And there was, as you'd expect, quite a lot of focus on the assessment type process. So instead of just bog standard coding assessment, he assembled some sort of SpaceX rocket launch kind of test, which I think was led to some really good engagement with the candidates. Of course, he used his own Equitas product for inclusive interviewing, and I think anonymizing. I'm not sure if it was actually Equitas that he used for this, but the anonymizing applications, so you could really focus on the candidate responses to application questions rather than maybe Michael could mention that in the chat here. Good. One anecdote links back some candidates get football feedback and be like, "What are you filming me for? Why did you just message me this if you're rejecting me?" But actually, some of his candidates, I think, misunderstood the feedback as an invitation to reapply. So that's another interesting concept that I'd probably never really thought about. But great article, really enjoyed it, as I enjoyed his first one as well.
Yeah, I think it's a great article simply because it's exposing, what actually happened.
Yeah.
There wasn't any. I think a lot of people when they're writing content, they feel the pressure that they need to have the like complete solution before they say anything. It's like, look,
Yes.
I've solved this problem and I'm sharing my solution with you. But that's not the take at all, and not exactly not what Michael did. He simply shared his experience as a manager of hiring a front end developer. What happened? How many candidates? How many applications? What were the trends that he saw? And I think what that type of public expose is very interesting to read, but I think also lets people into the know as to the sort of things that you need to keep in mind. So, for instance, if you from this article, if you saw that there was an uptick in candidates using ChatGPT to apply, same kind of question responses, etc., then obviously that also means that you have to, find a way to you need to have a policy on candidate use of AI. So yeah, it's a really good post.
Okay. Probably. I mean, I'm just going to skip to it. I was going to leave it to the end, but I'm just going to do it. Like one of the most wonderful things I've ever seen. The if you're looking for a job right now, like somebody said to me the other day, like if somebody moves my cheese, I go and find my effing cheese, was what she said. And I think, yeah, okay. So what that means is you've got to just go and you got to roll with the punches, and you got to embrace change and make things happen, like Marta Puerto did. She's a product marketing manager, and what she realized some way into her recruitment process, job search process, was she needs to start treating herself like a product, and she needs to market that damn product. And that's what she did. And she produced a video. I watched it. I don't know if it's like 2 minutes or something like that. It was just brilliant. It told her story of like not getting anywhere with her job applications, and then just like putting together such a beautiful video, like self-deprecating, really creative, showed off loads of her skills. Wonderful. Candidates need to do things like this.
Yeah, and I share it in the link there again. I'm pretty certain everyone's watched it by now, but do watch it. I mean, the quality of the production was amazing. So maybe a few of us watching it will be saying, look, I haven't got a studio, I haven't got a camera that has that type of quality. But that's not the main point. The main point is here's an example of someone creating some content which essentially provides evidence for her skills. By producing that video, it was evidence for the skills that she might needed to use in product marketing.
Absolutely.
And
Storytelling.
we as recruiters can do similar. What are the skills you're going to use as a recruiter? Oh, you're going to come up with a sourcing plan. Okay, write about how you come up with a sourcing plan. Why is that something that you don't publicly talk about? That basically will give the public at large a little bit of an additional insight on you that's beyond what you've written on LinkedIn or beyond the CV, and it just creates another opportunity for someone to get in touch with you. I mean, I think Martha's post had like something like 10,000 reposts and stuff, so I'm pretty certain she's got a job now.
She's got 100,000 plus reactions.
Yeah, crazy. And like I say, it's brilliant. I don't expect people to do the same, but you should draw inspiration from the technique, especially if you're stuck in this apply reject kind of doom loop. That can often be the case. If you find yourself applying to dozens of jobs and you're getting no response, you're getting rejections, etc., you gotta kind of think that's not the only way. You have to find another way to do it. Cool.
Bill Fisher. I think he's I'm not sure what his job title is actually. I think it's probably Chief Technology Officer at Vonk. He wrote an article, really quite thought-provoking article on LinkedIn. A lot of the ones I noticed this actually this week. A lot of them were on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Like a disproportionate number from normal.
Yeah.
Anyway, Bill Fisher, who I've had the privilege to meet a few times, and he's a really smart guy. He wrote a piece about the potential for new revenue opportunities for job boards, specifically job board aggregators. And this is concerning the opportunity to make money from licensing your data, as opposed to the traditional advertising revenue. So it references quite a few insights from people like Richard Collins and Rob Brower and Doug Monroe around this topic. And it's to do with inference tasks, I think is the best way to describe it. So it suggests that job aggregators might transition towards providing exclusive data sets to large language models, and that they could get paid for that. And I think that it's quite technical. If you're in the job board world or you're in the recruitment marketing world, you probably will find it really interesting. And he says certainly there's going to be an increasing use of large language model technology in the job board area, and suggested a big shift towards candidate-centric models. So I thought it was really interesting. But I am into recruitment marketing and I'm into data, so might be a little bit niche for some people here, but worth having a look at.
Yeah, I think all of those folks that were referenced in that post are worth following on LinkedIn, because they do write interesting things, and they do they do extend the thinking on the topic. So the Bill Fishers of this world, the Richard Collins, and all those guys, Doug Monroe, get following them, because you'll learn stuff that you previously hadn't thought of. I didn't think that there may be a potential avenue for job boards to actually be a data licenser, rather than just charge on post. But the more you think about it, the more there's lots of data in there that's very, very interesting. There's two types of data on a job board: there's jobs and there's people. So that's proprietary data that job board has collected. And yeah, I can imagine that being very useful, depending on which guy you've got to do it.
Yeah. Okay. So it wouldn't be a Brainfood roundup without talking about which jobs are be disappearing. There was another piece which I found really interesting, looking at data from Upwork from about mid 2002 till early 2004. And it was looking at, it emphasized the importance of examining real-time data as opposed to speculation. And what it said was, now, how useful is this for most people, given it's freelance jobs that it's talking about? And freelance is still probably a semi-niche category at this point, but it noted that jobs in things like writing and translation and customer service jobs all faced both declines and reductions in the money attached to that, the actual pay attached to those jobs. However, like other creative jobs, which could be impacted quite a lot by artificial intelligence, were absolutely resilient. So things like graphic design and software development, video production, and things like that. So I wonder if that's because generative AI hasn't quite, hit the same heights as it has for tech yet. But it really highlights the growing demand for AI related tasks. As I think it finished off by saying it's a lot more need for people doing things like prompt engineering and prompt architecture and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's a really good analysis, and I think Upwork and Fiverr, those types of organizations, those platforms, are as good a signal as we're going to get in terms of the impact of AI with regards to demand for jobs and demand for skills. And some of them were obvious, as you mentioned: copywriting, social media management. Those saw sharp declines on volume of jobs and also rate. But then there were some surprising ones, like video editor, which I assumed, with text to video, it looks like, hey, surely you don't need this anymore. But it may well be that the editor, the generated edit, is not good enough for what the person wants. So yeah, interesting. Go ahead and read it.
One more?
Okay. No. We're running out of time. So let's get on with it. We'll bring Willem onto the show, waiting patiently. And there's going to be some screen share action here, by the way, folks. So get ready for this. Where do I find Willem? There he is. Invite. All right, so you've demanded to come on, and I think, do I accept that? To main stage. Okay. There's a two-way invite process on this, which is quite confusing. But hopefully this means that he's in. And he is. There he is.
Hey. Yeah, I asked to come on the stage, so I kind of like requested the lovely person back door or backstage to get in, and then you also invited.
That lovely person is me, mate. So pushing those buttons. Don't ask me to do too much of that. That's dangerous.
I'm in awe of your multitasking skills.
Yeah, Willem, listen, a real pleasure to have you on the show. Why don't you quickly introduce yourself? Who are you? What it is you do? And then we'll get into it.
Awesome. Yeah, I think good segue just into like what I'm going to show and kind of like what I want to talk about with you all. And just I'll share my screen because I go from there. I've never actually shared a screen on this Crowdcast platform, so bear with me. Right. Are we here?
Yeah, we got it.
Beautiful. Well, first, happy International Women's Day. These are my women, which I think we all should pause on, these three men also on stage, like the females in our lives, right? These two are my just the people that make it work for me. And I guess you all have that yourself. These are Keita and Lola. And obviously shout out to my two sons as well. Anyway, enough about that. Hi, my name is Willem. I lead everything Ashby, EMEA, mainly the community, and kind of like growing our presence. I've been in TA since 2009. I've known Hung basically since 2009. I remember SoundCloud recording that we did back in the day. So maybe people want to uncover that again and see what we spoke about back then.
That still exists, by the way. That SoundCloud episode is still on the internet somewhere, so you can pick that up if you really are desperate to hear early Willem talk to early Hung. So yeah.
We're still baby recruiters, I guess. Anyway, I've always been very sourcing heavy in my TA career. I led a blog, or I wrote on a blog called Sourcing Monk. Maybe some of the old people will remember that, but I did funny things like sourcing on Airbnb and GitHub, and like when it was still early days. So that was fun. And my story with Ashby is basically since 2020. When I became Ashby's customer number 9, I was immediately in love with kind of like what we were building because of the all-in-one nature and my no longer need to kind of like procure separate tools to get my TA system done. And one of those things is actually the sourcing component that we have. So kind of like stop being ahead of TA and join and help 150 companies, mainly in EMEA, make the switch. We're over 1,000 companies today. But it's been an awesome journey, and I'm really thankful for being on this podcast and showing you a bit more about the talent trends. What I just want to talk about really quickly is kind of like why Ashby in the first place. Demands, talent teams constantly evolving. I think we were all there, right? Like everyone who is doing TA right now, like tooling of 5-10 years ago doesn't fit anymore. The ATS we feel is just no longer enough. And what we see in the market is teams either on the left with a ATS and do everything that should be table stakes in an ATS manually, so manual scheduling, manual sourcing. And either that problem becomes so big that they move more to the right, and then they become a talent Frankenstein. So they buy an ATS, they buy a sourcing tool, they buy a scheduling tool, they buy an analytics tool, and it becomes a whirlwind of separate tooling, which is just not great for efficiency, etc. So I went to the end. That's not great. Here I was. Interview. There we are again. So we believe really recruiting teams deserve better. And that's why we're basically building this all-in-one product. Probably you've heard about our RecOps and analytics drive, right? We have an analytical tool based in the beginning, and we've built the ATS and the sourcing staging on top of that. And today we're really going to focus on that sourcing and CRM, and we have the talent trend reports. And because we're in ATS and we have a lot of customers and a lot of data, we also service the community with a lot of the actual trends that are behind these teams. So we have a bunch of trends reports already listed, and I'll just a link in here where you can have a look at our at these trend reports. So one that I also am really passionate about is the Canada Experience Survey, and just the trends in recruiter productivity. Those two reports I think everybody here will also like. But yeah, today candidate sourcing. So we've done the analysis of our sourcing, like people on Ashby doing the actual sourcing in Ashby. So we've analyzed over 500K email sequences. So it's basically sequences that people send out can have multiple emails in there, right? So it's actually a very, very large like use case. And this basically a period that we did where it was in between January and January 22 and 24, which is enough data to really start driving value to the team. Or sorry, to the community. Right. So we split this report up in 3 kind of like sections: sourcing outreach benchmarks, trends in sourcing campaigns, and AI in sourcing. And I think we should talk about the elephant in the room. I think Hung, you also posted about this, the AI in sourcing, and that it's outcompeting the normal outreach. So maybe I can ask you, kind of like, what was your first reaction when you saw this? Like, what's underneath there?
I was not surprised, but I was disappointed. I think the reality is most generated text currently is going to be more effective than human type text, simply because the likes of, I mean, you guys plus LinkedIn, any of those organizations that basically have a platform that allows you to do it should be able to work out some basic sort of trends or rules that would trigger a more effective message. The number of words on a subject line, the number of personalization features on the body, that kind of thing. So I see this as inevitable, although I am also appalled because we're going to head quickly to a world where obviously everyone is going to be doing generative messaging. And I think what will happen there is that there'll be just a market-wide collapse in engagement because people will start rejecting generated messages because they know it's generated. Similar to how Michael mentioned earlier, when he was looking at candidates, it's another form of messaging. Start to spot large numbers of people saying the same thing. Immediately, you're interested in going further with that candidate. It's got to be compromised. So I think we're going to peak. We're going to use generative AI on message composition and outreach. That's going to be great for a while. Then we hit a wall and it's going to collapse, and then we have a completely new world. I can see Adam laughing, so he obviously disagrees with my analysis.
No, I agree. I agree with the first bit in that I'm not surprised by the results, and I'm also not disappointed either because it's what I would expect. Generative AI can write better than most recruiters can and most humans can. We're not hired for our great writing skills. We're hired for our great interpersonal skills, like face-to-face, being able to move a candidate through a process and move a hiring manager through a process. So I would put writing into the marketing category, and that's typically not what a recruiter is hired for. What I disagree with is that we're going to see a collapse of response as people detect that the content's been written by generative AI, because what we're going to do is we're going to look at the stuff that's been generated by AI, and if it's bland, we're going to enhance it. It's not our best work, that we're getting ChatGPT to write for us. It's great ideas and great starter for 10 kind of stuff. So we're still going to have a terrible response rate from most recruiters, but that's what they get today. But like, I think the smartest people will not just click copy. of Gemini and then post it into a bunch of InMails, they're going to take a look at what it said and they're going to refine it so that it's beautiful.
Yeah.
All right. Do you agree with Adam or do you agree with Hong? Put the comment in the chat stream. Let's just see whether the market sees it. Adam, Adam, if you agree with Adam, Hong, if you agree with Hong, put it in the chat stream there. If you're on LinkedIn, just put it in the comment thread. Let's see where we are. I'm pretty certain I'm going to lose the vote, but I think that's just naive optimism. But there, let's move forward. All right, Willem.
I think it's interesting, kind of like also when I saw the comments on the post that you put out there this week, is kind of like, Gen AI, like why would you use it, or like like people mass mailing. I think it's what the interesting thing is that how our teams use it is that they use the AI token, so it builds a little bit of the the outbound, and it can help with this. But they also personalize further, right? I think that's the gist of things. Like, we don't even allow mass emailing with the AI token, so folks can't really use it that way. Most of the teams that are using Ashby today is just using the AI token to really get more personal, right? And I think the increase here is also because of the ability to if you're not a personalizer, that you can do at least a little bit of personalization, and I think that's what's happening in recruitment, right? A lot of people are just sending the same email to everyone, and that is just not great. And if you already do a little bit of personalization because of AI, I think that already makes this increase happen. I actually want to show you how the AI sequence works. Is that
sure
to the test? Shall I use you as a you've been in TA.
Let's do it.
So basically, what we have here is the Chrome extension. The AI token we'll use in the sequences. So I can add on here to the sequence. I'll basically start drafting the sequence. Got a oh wait, I didn't press the wait 1 second. I'll just use myself because I want to find an email address. So let's use me. So basically, we find email addresses, so you can use those in those sequences. So everybody knows my email address now. I can add myself to Ashby, and then I've built a sequence here that has a head of recruitment sequence. So I have a head of recruitment job open in my ATS. And I can review this, and it brings up kind of like the 3, 4, 5-step email campaign that we've built. And as you can see, I've got like the AI token here, which you can still, it will build it on the fly, and it will look at my, my LinkedIn profile. We'll look at the job description that I've built in Ashby, and then build you a bit of the outbound, right? And I can't send this without accepting this. And what I normally do, and I think also all the teams, they accept it, and then they write even more personalization, right? They can still say like, and I know, or whatever, right? So they can personalize things a little bit more. So I think that's really why AI and kind of like the recruiter hand in hand work really well, and that's why we see this increase. So it's not just the robotic nature; it's really also that feature. I think I also see Bryce responding in the comments. So the data engineer who kind of like helped with and built the report is also here from Ashby to answer some of the comments. So that's great. Any questions if you see this? Kind of like, does that make that a little bit more clear?
Yeah, folks, if you have any questions, use the Q&A feature at the side bar. We'll go to them towards the end of the show. Okay. Go ahead, Adam.
What channels are you? What channels so you're creating a drip feed here, and like a drip nurture type campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Where are the messages going through LinkedIn, or are they going through email, or what they're going through where?
Yeah, you can choose. The first step in my case is from my work email to the personal email, and then step 3, like the second stage, would hit after 4 days, and it doesn't have any AI in there. It's just a reminder email. And then stage 3 is an in-mail in my case, but you could basically make that completely tailored to your own needs, right? So it's the, it's flexible to however you want to use it, but the sequences that we've we've kind of like calculated was just email, right? It's not in-mails, just emails.
And so just one other quick question. Is this for first tier connections, or is it accumulating email addresses from LinkedIn?
It's basically, we're integrated with a bunch of data vendors that that can find personal email addresses that are on the public domain, so GDPR compliant. Basically, you wouldn't need to buy all the tooling that's out there today. It's basically already in your ATS, right? That's the premise. With all of those modules that we built, kind of like on sourcing, but also on scheduling, on the analytics, you have all those tools in one product.
That's very interesting. I'm sure people will eventually ask this question. In fact, you might get to it. So if you're going to get to it, just leave it until you get to it. But what is the optimal email sequence now that you've kind of done this? Is it 3, 5, 6?
Yeah, I think I have one. Let me just go to this one. So what we've seen from the data is that like at that email 4 or email 5, it doesn't really matter anymore. Kind of like you don't get more, like you don't really get reply rates anymore, and the plateau of kind of like I'm interested is kind of like there. So what's the incremental gain of adding more reminders? I think that's the question. So I would basically say 3 emails where the first email really makes a difference, right? I think that's also still the case, right? You need to write that first email very enticing that people get back to you, because we see drop off at every step of the way.
Yeah, interesting. So I mean, what does that tell us as a recruiter? Your first email is your best chance. So make sure that's high quality. Your second email is a reasonable chance. But yeah, and then there's a collapse basically. Email 3 onwards, it's just it's getting to pointless stage. Interesting.
I think if I think about this myself, and I get sequenced as like from a sales perspective, but also from a job perspective, kind of like I think like the first email you want to get back to it, but then something happens and you get a reminder and you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna respond to it. So if it's really good, I respond to the first email immediately, but I also have like, oh, I need to get back to that thing, and then thankfully there's a reminder email, so you still get the response back. So I would always do email 2 and 3. I would not do email 4 and 5.
Yeah, interesting. So folks, there's a limit to how much email you should be sending. Interesting. Okay, Willem, let's not sort of interfere too much with your presentation.
No. I like this popcorn style way of going about it. But for me, like I'm not sure how many folks are or what people are doing in their day to day. But like, if you're not doing 3-step campaigns yet, like start introducing that, and maybe if you do 5-step campaigns, you can reduce that kind of clutter too. What I found interesting, obviously from a recruitment perspective, it's kind of like why this, like, why was it 14% kind of like reply rates in the downturn, right? So 2022 to 2023 when it's really, really bad. Obviously it's still bad, but like 2023, we saw a massive uptick in also reply rates. And like my question to the both of you, why? Like, why is that what can we learn from this?
Well, I mean, my first thought on this is that the wider job market's changed. Job insecurity's changed. So I imagine not only might there be more active candidates on the market, but every candidate has become more active because we're more sensitive to having the candidates more sensitive to having conversations with recruiters. I think that's broadly true right now because let's say this is tech. I'm not sure sort of how tech skewed the customer base at Ashby is. It probably is quite skewed to tech, I would imagine. And they, it's within living memory, 2021, the glory era of ridiculous job offers, tremendous benefits packages. As soon as you declared yourself available, you more or less got an offer of a job straight away, sight unseen even. So that's only 2 years or so ago. And I think that's completely changed now. And so I think devs are more sensitive to responding to recruiter outreach. Let me know, by the way, folks, if you feel that's the same. I mean, are you getting better engagement? I'm not talking about conversion, because I think conversion is still very difficult. We're not closing jobs faster, but we probably are having more conversations with candidates. Let me know in the comments sort of what your experience is.
I think that it depends. Yeah, it depends on like job categories and sectors, but 2023 was like much worse for a number of people that were out of work and in jobs they didn't want to do and things like that. So I would suspect it just mirrors that.
Yeah, I think I just find it like it's pretty big deficit between the 2 years. So I was just wondering kind of like how the two of you felt about it. I still feel kind of like, especially in moments of downturn, even if you get a lot of inbound, or if if there's downturn at all, like always be sourcing, because your reply rates will be better for it. I think there will be more of a case for you to really hit your goals as a sourcing team. Let me see. I was here. We spoke about this one. Then I think the ability to kind of like see the stage transitions, like in overall, like we have a 26% reply rate on our sequences, what we see from the teams that are using Ashby. Like I'm not sure how people are tracking and if they're tracking this at all, but I find that pretty from open email to replies. But then the conversion rate 35%, and conversion basically being like, yes, I'm interested, like I'm replying and I'm interested. I think that's the end all be all on what you wanna benchmark yourself against. Do you have any, like Adam? Do you benchmark sourcing teams, or is there any? Have you seen that before? Kind of like that there's any kind of benchmarking in the return on investment from a sourcing team?
I'm sure different companies have done it, but I'm not aware of any right at the top of my head. It'd be a useful thing for companies to produce and publish, actually, but yeah, not off my the top of my head. The companies that seem to have this data are actually other ATS type businesses. So right now, those are the people that talk more about conversion rates. But yeah, it'd be great if someone else has recorded this data themselves.
Yeah, I think oh, sorry, Adam.
I was just going to say that I don't want to dehumanize sourcers, but we need to consider, a talent acquisition leader needs to consider sourcing as another channel in the same way as marketing, advertising, and employee referral, and other things as well, and does need to be continually evaluating the people that are coming through each channel. And sourcing's another channel from my perspective. And as I say, I don't want to dehumanize sourcing by calling sourcers a channel, but that's what it is.
Yeah, but I think like I've led big sourcing teams myself as well, and I was always pretty focused on kind of like conversion rates, and I'm happy that there's now kind of like a semi benchmark in the space where you can hold your sources at least accountable for kind of like what teams in Ashby are doing. So yeah, maybe start using that 35% conversion rate as a stake in the ground, and work from there.
Yeah, my experience is that RPO teams do this very well. They've typically measuring absolutely everything they need to, because unlike an in-house TA team, that's their business and that's how they make money. So they have to justify everything they're doing. In-house TA teams can sometimes do that, but a lot of the time they don't get that granular.
Yeah, I think those with the like the crunch of kind of like TA teams, most internal TA partners are now also sourcing, and obviously we give them the tooling to also make up for that. So it's an interesting metric here that I just wanted to shout out about as well. Then the next one is the sourcing investment versus kind of like most inbound applications. So Hung, I think you said, like on your post, you said something about the legal teams, right? Like legal teams are being the most responsive. Kind of like, what was it? What made you so outraged, or like outraged, but like impressed with that?
I think legal teams are responding with legal threats, basically. So the number is high, but it's not because of the candidates. They're literally sending you a threat to say, "Is this GDPR compliant? Please remove me from your database. And if you don't, we're going to sue you." That's my guess. Be interested to do the analysis on that. But yeah, immediately I thought that when I saw this chart.
Yeah, I think so. What is we can talk about the legal query in a bit, but what I see from kind of like sourcing investment is that engineering has moved up in inbound applications quite a bit, right? So it's above finance and sales and security, which is interesting. So we still source. Our majority of the sourcing happens for engineering type folks. So kind of like that's something also about the market. Very there's a change there. Also, in sourcing investment, like our teams do quite a bit of investment on data, but also get a lot of inbound on like data team kind of like building. So if I were a sourcing manager, I would love to see it kind of like equally, right? Because I think if you get a lot of inbound, you also have way more chance on getting better people when you reach out to them. So I think that's also something that I want people to take home at. It's like, even if you get a lot of inbound, it still pays off to really do the sourcing and outbounding to these folks, because you probably get better reply rates, etc., because there's already more inbound there. Then also, how quickly can things change, right? I remember when I was still leading the TA team before Ashby, I couldn't hire any recruiters, and obviously from 2023, it's been the leading factor in terms of the leading vertical in inbound, and also no more outbound there for recruiting as well. So just interesting information there on kind of like how things have changed from the last few years. But like those were the 5 things that I found the most interesting. Not sure, Hung, if you wanna riff on a little bit more on the talent trends reports.
Absolutely, but before we do that, let's sort of have a quick break. We always do this in the middle of every show. We can't stop doing it simply because we forget. We haven't forgotten today. So this is the time where we want to make sure everyone has increased their network value by participating on Brainfood Live. So grab your LinkedIn URL, stick it in the chat stream, or if you're at LinkedIn, stick it in the comment thread there, and then just connect with everyone who's done the same. Bottom line is, if you're interested in this topic, no reason why you couldn't continue this conversation after we come off air. So share your profiles in there and on LinkedIn, and then make sure that you connect with everyone who's done the same.
Awesome. One thing before I close the presentation, kind of like, if you find this interesting and you want to give the sourcing, the sequencing a whirl, I still have a few spots on the 20% first year discount, Hung, from what we did a few weeks back. Yeah, happy to demo the product with a bit more in depth and show you kind of like how it can all work.
Share that link in the comment thread as well, Willem. I'm sure there's going to be people out there that's interested.
Willem, can I just say one thing about Ashby, by the way?
Yeah, for sure.
Like my impression, my very, very strong impression is that the talent acquisition teams don't want 20+ software solutions to get all their tasks completed. And as I understand, Ashby is covering a lot more than a standard applicant tracking system. So
yeah,
thumbs up for that.
Thank you. Yeah. It's basically, it's why I jumped ship, right? I was always buying 4 or 5 tools, and when Benji and I, the CEOs, spoke like in 2020, the majority of sourcing was already there, and that really made me very happy. But then also the deep scheduling automation, and basically not having to buy all the tools that you would normally buy to just do scheduling, which I think is table stakes for our domain, right? Just makes so much difference. And yeah, a lot of teams are jumping on that bandwagon. We're very lucky to have the many customers and the trust that we get from them. But thanks for the shout out. Yeah, it's really nice.
How many people use the sourcing module? I presume that's a paid for solution, right? So it's like an
No.
add-on that you pay for? No?
Nope. No. So that's also a big differentiator with Ashby is that the product, the all-in-one product is the product. There's no like bolting on. And the sourcing, like what I just showed you, is basically part of the product. So that's also a unique thing is that, we don't gate everything. We want to give recruitment teams also all the functionality and the bells and whistles that you should need to get your job done.
Yeah, very interesting. I think it's as a product really pulling up trees. People are becoming very conscious of it. So I think the data like this is going to be another powerful way to build brand awareness and get people to be aware of the product. I can only encourage you to keep doing it. I mean, I know it's a lot of work to pull data like that, but essentially, it's so useful for anybody watching or reading to know things like, okay, it's pointless sending the fourth email, for instance, or other. I mean, we kind of skipped a lot of the insights as well. There's lots of other insights in there, such as time of day. Like, when is the time of day that is most optimal? What is the time of day? Let's give people a quick how-to here.
Yeah, I can run that really quick. So basically, sourcing performance is basically Monday to Friday, obviously. Saturday and Sunday doesn't really work, but I think the time of day is very important, which is obviously between 12 p.m. and 6 p.m. There's just better, basically better reply rates. But it's not kind of like a major difference that I would say like always send the email in that perspective.
So afternoon better than morning, basically.
Yes. And we also see that majority of the teams in Ashby are doing that as well, right? So the biggest bulk of the volume that goes out is during that time frame. Yeah, and I think we even do it per hour, and there maybe I can bring up the thing in the.
That would be interesting.
Screen. Folks can see this. This is just directly from the report.
What are we looking at here?
So basically, sourcing performance by hour of day. So we see the reply rate is the green bar.
Yeah.
Then we obviously see kind of like the time frames and the relative campaign count that gets sent out. So basically, we see a lot of teams kind of like working in this perspective, but the better reply rates are here, it is interesting to kind of like see what the teams are doing on Ashby in that perspective, but like not like there's not a golden hour. That's
What are the other things that like generally Ashby like customers and prospects are looking for from their technology? What are the hot trends?
Yeah, I think we see the consolidation piece coming up a lot, right? So coming out of 2021, people had a lot of tooling procured, and they want to bring that back into one tool. So that's one thing that we see from a technology point of view. I think also the efficiency gain, but now having to manage 4 different vendors and 4 different email or 4 different tabs, etc. That's the thing. And every source or like every recruitment leader is different, right? Like maybe you don't do a lot of sourcing, but you do have a very big scheduling need. Like we focus on that too. Like the analytical nature of Ashby with the just being able to drive value up to C-level is a big differentiator. And we hear from time and time again that they get seats at the table because of the reporting that they can do. Because this trend report kind of like is super nice, but we also allow our recruitment teams that are on Ashby to really do state-of-the-art reporting and basically driving that value up the chain. Maybe a good segue into kind of like showing you the sourcing dashboard. So this is kind of like what you can have in Ashby. Like this is a core dashboard that we've built for you It's obviously my demo data, so it's not really representative, but like you can see how many outreaches you've done, like how many sequences you've started, what's your conversion rate per per sequence that you send out, how many sequences that we send out, and obviously you can automate all of this and send it to your C-level or your sourcing manager or whoever to really drive that value and the insights. And everything's interactable, right? So if you want to see where those five outreaches, click into it, and then you get to those 5 people as well, right? So it's I think the ability to use that data and also be strategically, but also operationally is something that we hear from teams that are on Ashby that they really enjoy.
That's fantastic. That is fantastic. Okay, folks, I think we're coming to the end of this presentation. Thank you so much, Willem, for taking us through that. I think it's useful for everyone to download this report. They can do so freely, so make sure you go ahead and do so. And there is also that discount link. If you want to take things further with Ashby, you can do so with 20% discount going forward. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
The stock is limited. There's only 7 more, I think. So
get in there. Limited stock. All right, Willem. Listen, we'll let you go here. Thanks so much for joining. We'll
Thanks
get
for having
you
me on.
For future.
I hope you feel better soon.
Shows. Yeah, hopefully so. I think people are commenting, "Oh, you sound terrible," and yeah, I do feel terrible. So hopefully it will be better next time we're on air. Okay, Willem, have a good day, mate.
Yeah, bye, and thanks for joining.
Okay, folks, we have concluded today's show. We will be back next week, where we're going to have to talk some real talk. Is TA and HR being left behind in the conversation for the AI-enabled organization? So, for instance, is our CEOs thinking along the same lines as to how an AI-enabled organization looks, and are we in that conversation? Chances are we aren't. I read a really interesting blog post by Jason Seiden. He's going to be a guest on the show. We're also going to bring in, it's a genuine thought leader show. So we're also going to bring in people like Madeline Lorano. We're going to bring in Lars Schmidt. And we're going to bring in Adam Gordon, of course. So make sure you sign up for that. It's actually not yet sort of launched. I've got to do that this weekend. But you can follow the channel here, and that will give you notification as to when we go live. Okay, that's about it. I'll see you next time.
Go to bed or something.
I've got to have a pint first, because I'm doing this from Office End's offices, and because the Wi-Fi is so bad in the hotel. So I'm gonna meet with Brett for a drink, and then it's Ubering it straight back to bed.
Fingers crossed your pint is good medication, because I'd be having a hot toddy if I was you.
Yeah, it'd be whiskey or something. It would be something that meant to neutralize sort of diseases.
But not with Scott McCrae.
Yes, I do remember. That. All right, listen.
Cheers.
Thanks for coming. I'll see you next week, mate.